Hello, my loves. Welcome back to another video here on Starseed Academy. My name is Jenny. I am so happy to have you back here on this channel for a new video all about Star Nations heritages, we could call it, like the different kinds of star nations that you would most likely come across or work with, the most predominant star nations that are choosing to work with humanity at this time, especially starseed leaders of light, and that kind of thing. Not just who they are, but their characteristics and how they're working with humanity and their frequency and their archetypes and all of that kind of stuff, because I don't think that I have a video where we've got it all in one place. We've got videos about the different ones, but not all together. So we're not, so this is a deep dive into Star Nations heritages, and I think that you will feel a lot and recognize a lot of these energies that you've already been working with. And I have this feeling like there's going to be a lot of synchronicities in this video for you to confirm things that you've thought. Oh, I thought that that's what my Pleiadian guide was trying to work with me on, or said to me, or I thought that that was a Mantis guide and I wasn't sure, or, all these different ones that we're going to cover. So I want to kind of have some kind of an order to this. So I was going to cover it from like the lower frequencies up to the highest frequencies, and kind of think of dimensions for the sake of simplicity like a layered cake, right? 3D is one layer of the cake, 4D, 5D, all just stacked on top of each other. I want you to know that is not actually how the dimensions are or how they work, but for simplicity's sake, it really makes it so easy to, like, for our human minds, the way we think linearly, but that's also not correct, the way we can think of dimensions in this layered cake kind of experience. We can get into the truth about dimensions and how they're actually set up. If you would like to go deeper into that, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you want videos on. I'm here for it. Okay, so let's dive into this. And this would be, just side note, this would be a really good video to share because there's so many people out there that want more of this information about these starseed origins, right? And want to recognize themselves in these starseed origins. Okay, so I want to start with, let's start at the bottom-ish, around 4D, the frequency of fourth dimensional frequency, okay? So just slightly above our 3D worlds. So I would say that this is where I would place a lot of Orion energies. So Orion, star nations of Orion, Orion's belt, and that whole constellation and the beings within Orion. Now, these Orion citizens would be like the spiritual warrior template, which is very 4D. The spiritual warrior template about like, seeking justice for all, free will for all, fighting back against corruption. This has to do with like illuminating, digging up conspiracy theories, corruption. This is a lot about duality. This is a lot about fighting back. So this spiritual warrior template and this Orion energy is where a lot of people find themselves in the beginning of their awakening. It's the next step from 3D is this 4D energy, where you are yourself going down all these rabbit holes about conspiracy and feeling like you're the spiritual warrior and you want to fight back and you want to use your weapons of light and all of that. It's a beautiful phase of a spiritual awakening. The only problem with it is, this maybe is a whole other video too. Let me know if you want to know more about this, but there are like a huge percentage of people that are having an awakening get stuck in this phase of the 4D spiritual warrior and never fully move beyond it into there's more than that. There's 5D unity consciousness, there's 6D physical ascension crystalline, there's 7D elemental sovereign creator energy. There's so much more that we have ahead of us, but many people just pocket here and get really stuck. And I think it's because the 4D dimensional frequencies have really been hijacked by a lot of dark agenda beings, shadow government beings, that intentionally create an addictive quality to the drama of the conspiracy and the corruption and all of that. And so people get caught in loops of, I want to do what's right. I want to fight back. Oh my God, this next terrible thing just came out. And they're stuck on a loop of this energy of anger and rage. And that just so happens to be what feeds the matrix. right? So when you're stuck in the 4D, even though you're at the beginning of an awakening, you're actually really feeding the 3D matrix simulation. All right, so let's move on beyond that. So the next thing would be the ascended version of the Orions. By the way, Orions, what do they look like? It is such a mixed bag. This is one of those places that is like, think about Star Wars cantina scene where there's insectoids, humanoids, animal style, galactics, avian beings. It's a mixed bag. You really could see a lot of different cool beings and energies, avatars for Orion. So the next bump up from that would be someone that works with Orion heavily. That's the blue avians. So blue avians, I would say, are probably very 5D frequency. So this is moving from a spiritual warrior into that unity consciousness. Blue avians feel very divine masculine to me. Now that isn't about gender. It's not that they're all male. It's just that it has a very divine masculine energy of the protector and the leader. And they are very much, that unity consciousness is also known as like Christ consciousness. So this is where you move beyond the duality of fighting back and you start to dissolve that distortion through love and compassion. So they're incredibly loving, incredibly compassionate. In fact, there are blue avian like monarchies inside of Orion's belt. That's how closely linked these two are. So the blue avian I would consider an ascended version of a spiritual warrior, right? Where they're working with, instead of like aggression and like light weapons, they're working more with like dissolving things through love and compassion and using those frequencies to dissolve away distortion and see what's really behind the corruption or the conspiracy or whatever it is. Okay. That's the next one. Let's move on. We're going to move because we got a lot to cover. If there's any of these also, again, if there's something you want me to go deeper into, you just have to let me know. Okay. The next one is very common. Many people have links to Pleiadians. They either have had Pleiadian lifetimes or they have Pleiadian spirit guides or they work with Pleiadian councils. What a beautiful energy. I definitely feel like this lands us in around 6-dimensional frequency. What is 6D? So 4D was a spiritual warrior, 5D is unity consciousness, 6D is like the physical ascension, right? Where you're now you're ascending on a physical level. So Pleiadians would have like crystalline physicality, crystalline bodies. Okay, so the Pleiadian like energies, they are ambassadors, they are humanitarians, they're all about volunteering, service, they love to share resources, so they're heavily investing in and educated in medical field, and they really blend that with science. So if you've ever heard of like med beds, that's a Pleiadian technology. And because they're into this like humanitarian vibe, this service to others vibe, they share those resources by taking those med beds on ships, literally to places that need help. Like maybe to places like other galaxies, other constellations, other places to bring this beautiful healing. And they also welcome astral groups of humans to come and use the med beds as well, which I have definitely taken people on events like that. If you want to experience that, then you want to, because the Starseed Academy membership is where I did a lot of these events. I'm no longer doing the membership. So now that membership has been turned into what I call the Starseed Vault. 4 years of those kinds of astral events, activations, healings are all available. One low payment and you get it for life. You get the whole hundreds and hundreds of videos, activations, healing for life. Okay. So what else can I say about Pleiadians? They're humanoid. They look like human beings. They tend to be a little taller, not a lot, but they a little bit bigger, like maybe they're just breathing really good oxygen. They do have a bit of a glow to them, a bit of a glow to their aura, which I think speaks to their health. And they have extremely long lifespans because that is one of the medical things that they continue to research is how to extend a lifespan. So think maybe more like hundreds of years instead of 100. And their complexion, I know a lot of people get this wrong, not wrong, but in their perspective, they feel like Pleiadians are blue. And I've never seen a blue Pleiadian. I don't know where that came from. Pleiadians have the complexions of human beings. So pale, olive, tan, brown, black, just regular human complexions, many different ones, you know? Many different races. Okay, good. All right, so we'll move up into like a 6th, 7th dimensional frequency. Sometimes it's a bridge where a species, just like humans, can be 3D, 40, 5D, 60. There's a span there, right? So not all Pleiadians are 60. Some are 5, some are 7s. There's like a generalization that we can use to understand things. So the next one is Lyrans, Lyra, feline beings. So these beings are very much about embodiment. They're very much about, again, that physical ascension. They're very much about that 6D divine origin blueprint, that crystalline blueprint. But Lyrans are extremely, this is very different than Pleiadian energy. They're very bold. They're very unfiltered. They are very fierce. They will use their voice. They will set boundaries. They have a very strong throat chakra, and they're not afraid to use it. So I tend to work with Lyrans for people that are struggling with their throat chakra and like the power of their voice to speak their truth, to speak their story, to set their boundaries. Maybe they've been taken advantage of. Maybe they don't have a lot of self-worth. Lyrans will swoop right in there, and Lyrans have an incredibly powerful light language, like a special language that they can use to encode the Lyran frequency into the throat chakra to really help you step into that embodiment of your worth, right? So Lyrans are beautiful feline beings. Okay, think like lions, lionesses, tigers, jaguars, panthers, cheetahs, maybe other ones we don't have on Earth, but like full size, like human size, like think of like I don't know, like a 5 or even 6 foot lion, but they stand on their back feet, which is really interesting. They are not humanoid, right? I forgot to mention this about blue avians. Okay, let's quickly jot back to blue avians. Blue avians are humanoid from like the neck down, but from like the head up, the neck up, it's like all feathers, right? So blue feathers, bird eyes, beak, a lot of the times wings on the back, but then we've got like a humanoid torso. Lyrans are the full animal aspect. It's a complete feline being. There's going to be paws, not hands. There's going to be fur on the belly. Like there's going to be a tail. And yet they stand upright like a human and often wear like human clothing. Their culture, when you go there to their worlds, is very Asian influenced, or maybe vice versa. Asia is very Lyran influenced, where they're wearing like kimonos. They're really into like having these little temples. It's all about like Zen. It's all about like chi. It's all about like slow movements. They've got like staffs for their warriors, like big wooden staffs. Like it's just giving off like a very like Asian continent kind of vibe. And because of that, that makes me think I know each continent was seeded differently with a different galactic. I just have to believe that Asia was seeded by Lyran energy, right? It's too much of a synchronicity to overlook. Okay, moving on to the next one. So that was like 6, 7-ish. Moving on to the next one, which we're like 7 to 8 now. For the most part, again, there's always exceptions to the rule. Elementals. Now, not a lot of people consider elementals starseeds or starseed origins or star nations. They absolutely are galactics. They absolutely are galactics. Elementals means dragons, unicorns, mermaids, fae, elven beings, sprites, brownies, trolls, all of that world. So the special magic that elementals bring is that sovereign creator. They are the most powerful manifestors. Elemental manifestation is beyond, like off the charts. They can create any kind of reality. They can pull things into existence. They truly are exemplary as the sovereign creator of their own reality and have a lot to teach humans about that. And you can expect to see a lot of this elemental manifestation techniques coming through humanity, coming through spokespersons, certain humans that will be doing podcasts and books and workshops on new forms of manifestation that we don't even know yet, or that we don't even, like, we're not tapping into. So obviously they work deeply with frequency. They work deeply with vibrational frequencies, timelines, alternate timelines, and pulling things from them into the reality you're in now, or timeline hopping and jumping, all of that. What else can I say about elementals? Elementals, there was a time on Earth when elementals were here. Where do you think our storybooks come from about dragons and unicorns and all of that? They were here at one time. But they also have their own galaxies that are just elemental galaxies. There can be planets of just unicorns. There's a unicorn kingdom. There can be planets of just dragon beings. And then there's mixed elemental planets too. Okay. Avalon was the time on Earth that I was referring to. Avalon. So if you love Avalon, you definitely have elemental energy within you, past lives, guides, all of that. Okay, the next one is Andromeda. So Andromeda is one of my favorites. This is very like ninth dimensional. Andromedans are so beautiful. Oh my goodness, they're like 9 feet tall, like 8, 9, 10 feet tall. So tall, so like lean and lithe. They are this very pale purple color. They have like 3 fingers and then a thumb, so like that, but like long fingers, long limbs, very narrow, long limbs, super tall, long necks, heart-shaped faces, and then these big black almond eyes in this pale purple color, very long torso, legs, all of that. They are energy weavers. So they weave light and creation, matter, and energy. They weave it into things. So obviously they would be powerful energy workers where they could work with, like, to rebuild someone's entire energetic system. Think about somebody completely rebuilding your chakra system or your aura or your meridians. And they also are timeline artists. Because they can weave creation matter, they literally can weave into existence new timelines. Whereas right now as humans, we're working more with what's available. Okay, what's the highest timeline available to me? Let me hop onto that. But an Andromedan would be able to weave a new timeline. So think about the potential of that. There's a lot of Andromedan souls here on Earth. A lot of them are called into my course. So I've met a lot of them through teaching inside of Weaver of Light. Where do you think I got that name from, right? Do you know, like, just a behind the scenes of Starseed Academy, that course was originally called Andromedan Weaver of Light, and then I changed it just to Weaver of Light because inside I wanted to work with Pleiadians, Lyrans, and Andromedans, and that's specifically what that course is. But anyway, so yes, Andromedans are energy weavers. They're 9th dimensional. They have this really like regal, graceful, just essence. Oh, it's just so, it's beautiful to be within. Okay, the next one is Mantis beings. So Mantis are 10th dimensional, and they are all about inner peace. A Mantis being is literally what it sounds like. It is like a praying mantis, but not this big. Again, extremely large. We're 9, 10 feet tall. Galactics are really big a lot of the time. So, and they come in different colors, gray, there's blue mantis, green mantis, there's probably yellow. There might be more. And they're all about like inner peace, inner zen, right? They're very calm, cool, collected. They are truly neutral. They have this true neutrality to them. And because of that, they are used by the Galactic Federation of Light often as ambassadors to go into places that are, I would consider like hotspots, where the beings there are quite confrontational. So think Saturn, Mars, Draco, those kinds of places. They would send a Mantis being in because Mantises are extremely respected even by those confrontational beings. Because a Mantis being can stand in the middle of 2 opposing groups that are screaming at each other and bring everyone to calm. And then say, okay, I actually know where you're coming from. I know exactly what you mean, but I also see where you're coming from. Let's find this solution that works for everyone. And they're so good at that. So, you know, a human with Mantis energy would be an amazing leader, like a politician. These are a balanced leader energy, extremely balanced, extremely neutral, extremely respected, very calm, never really lose their shit. Okay. All right. And then the next one would be Arcturian. So now we're in like we're in like 11th dimensional frequency, which is actually also the Ascended Master realm. So Ascended Masters tend to be 11D, but since we're doing galactics, Arcturian is what is that high. Arcturian energy. So this is where spirituality and technology come together in a beautiful, harmonic way, in an organic way, in a holistic way. Something that we haven't achieved as humans yet. Well, we have in golden eras, but not here, right? So think about maybe Atlantis or Lemuria, or times where technology didn't fight back against nature and Gaia. It wasn't about fossil fuels and stripping our planet of her resources and drilling and digging and fracking and all these things. It was about working with the energetics of the planet and building technology that made sense for that, like free energies. And like Gaia has a lot of built-in technology technology that no one is utilizing. So spirituality and technology coming together, which equals holistic advancement. Arcturians will often tell you, don't be afraid of advancement. Don't be afraid of technology. How else are you going to gain your place as a galactic council, you know, inside these different federations of the Milky Way? Humans deserve their spot, but you need to be able to have spaceships and travel and do all these different things, and you can't be afraid of that either, right? So that would be like an Arcturian, incredibly intelligent, very dry sense of humor, humanoid, but no hair, generally, and blue. Now we're talking the blue skin. It wasn't on the Pleiadian, but it is here on the Arcturian. Okay, the next one would be the last galactic before you hit angelic realms, the highest one. That's the blue rays. So the blue rays have individual consciousness inside of a group consciousness. So they would be like, when you look at them, they appear to me as the northern lights. So they don't have a physical avatar like an Arcturian. They're not like a physical being that I can look at. They all are together as a group consciousness that's like this beautiful waving energy that looks honestly exactly like the northern lights. And yet they've told me that they still feel like individuals that work together as a whole. So they still have individual thoughts, these different souls in the group, but there's also this group consciousness and this group purpose and this group mission. So they feel galactic, but they also feel angelic because they're kind of in this in-between, right in between that. It's like a bridge between galactics and angelics. They have this beautiful group consciousness, and a lot of the work they do is around like portals. So I've seen them, they never have to go anywhere. They just open wormholes to places that they want to send things. So they open a wormhole to a planet that is in need of healing, in need of a wave of ascension, in need of, I mean, they have so much. At 11th dimensional frequency, there's so much that they could send through that's available to them. So they tend to open wormholes to places and then they send things through. So they're working, they're doing a lot. They're very fulfilled by this work. They feel very like at home in that group consciousness. If you've ever experienced a Blu-ray energy, I think I have a whole video about Blu-rays. Let me know. I personally felt like it felt like home to me when I experienced it. I just remember like bawling my eyes out. The first time that I ever interacted and communicated with a Blu-ray, I cried and I felt like that's home. Like that's where I came from. You know, I have lots of different like lifetimes that I've had in different starseed origins, but something about that felt really like at home for me. So beyond that, you're into angelic realms, right? And the angelic realms, no one knows how high they go, but we've seen that it goes archangels, healer angels, cherubim angels, seraphim angels. Seraphim angels are supposed to be the highest vibrational angels that they are. They call themselves the right hand of God. And that's like 14th, 15th dimensional frequency, like maybe 15 at the top. And that's the highest frequency being dimension I've ever communicated with. That's the seraphim is the highest I've ever communicated with. So to me, that's a lot to work with, isn't it? But I know that there's more. You know what I mean? Like, I know that there's more than 15 dimensions. I just feel like it goes on and on and on and on. But being in sometimes in a physical human being or being in a third dimensional incarnation might limit what we can have access to. So that is my limit of what at this point, maybe very interesting to see like in a year or two what happens. But the seraphim are so powerful. What a potent energy to have a seraphim even just gaze at you is very, very intense, almost like to the point of intimidating. Like I feel a little intimidated until you get to like maybe know that being a little bit. They're funny, they're amazing, they have personalities, they're intelligent, they're orbs of light with many, many wings, and all the wings are all these eyes, and within that orb of light tends to be one larger eye as well. Incredibly cool beings to look at. Okay, so we've talked Orion all the way up to blue rays. I know that we didn't talk about every single star nation, but what you can do is you can check out the playlist here on YouTube called Meet the Cosmos, where I have individual videos about specific, like Cygnus, for example. I just did the swan constellation of Cygnus and the beings there, so you could find out more about them. So if you really love the style of content, make sure you check out that playlist because there's so much there. Now, before we stop for the video, There are two pretty controversial ones that I didn't cover. Maybe you noticed. I left them for the end, and I don't even know why. But I left them for the end, and I would love to cover them now for you. So the first controversial one, y'all know what I'm about to say. These are the Draconians. These are the reptilians, right? So reptilians, the ones in particular, because there's different kinds of reptilians, but the ones in particular that look like velociraptors, right? There's no real other way to describe this. They look like velociraptors. They stand as tall as a man, and they've got that thick tail at the end. No wings, just like a velociraptor, okay? That would be what I would consider like a reptilian. You know, in Draco, there's also dragons, and there's probably all kinds of other ones. But that would be what I would consider like a typical reptilian. Now, understand that you cannot judge all reptilians as being bad. Just like you can't say all humans are, you know, evil, murderers. No, are some of them? Yes. So with reptilians, there are definitely, probably even a majority of them, that are fairly negative and service to self. But there's also like a reptilian council of light, which is really popular, which is really beautiful and popular in, maybe popular is not the right word, because it's actually pretty rare that people even know that this exists. But reptilian council of light is really powerful in being of service to humanity right now, and in helping humanity right now to ascend beyond the 4D, which is something we talked about when we talked about Orion. So there is a reptilian council of light that is service to others and helpful to humanity. But that's not what we're going to talk about. So let's talk about the reptilians that are service to self, maybe that darker energy, okay? I have, I'm pretty sure, a series here on YouTube of the history of Draco. And I think it's some short videos that you can catch up on if you want to know more about that. And so the reptilians that look like the velociraptors, that are not the ones that are in the Council of Light, are 4D as well. Okay, so but these are an example of service to self 4D. Because when we were talking about Orions and the spiritual warriors, and we're saying they're 4D, they are still service to others, because a lot of what they are feeling is I want to help, even though it might feel a little misguided in the way that they're being triggered into anger, which serves the matrix. Underneath that is a good heart. A spiritual warrior is a good heart and someone that really cares about the underdog and really wants to help people. That is not the 4D I am referring to. The 4D with the reptilians is service to self. So power hungry. They want the power, they want the control, they want to be in charge of things, they want to be the puppet master. Why are they 4D and not 3D? Because 3D means that you don't have any awareness of, like, there's really very little self-awareness in 3D or awareness of what's really going on, right? Reptilians know what is up. They know all the dark agendas. They're a part of a lot of it. They know that they are trying to use humanity to serve their needs, right? So 4D, because they're aware, but service to self 4D, because they're that power hungry, egotistical, actually, like, to be honest, like people that are that egotistical, very narcissistic kind of energy, generally struggle with their self-worth. So I would just say that these darker reptilians, they're not happy. Like, they're not like glowing with joy and bliss. They're not having a good time. They're stressed out. They are stressed out the majority of the time. They have these very military style personalities. It's very black or white. There's no gray. They're not feeling good feelings, you know? The rushes or the dopamine hits that they get come from like trying to feed on people's lower energies. Anything below neutral gives them that little boost of strength, right? Like other people's fear, shame, kind of like a dark entity, how they feed on people is similar to a reptilian. So you could think of them as like an energetic vampire, okay? This is an example of a species, mostly, that is stalled in their evolution. Their evolution has stalled. They are way older than humanity, way older than humanity. And yet they're stuck in 4D. They're stalled in 4D. And we can see how humanity is starting to mirror that, where they're getting stuck in 4D, which is where they activate like the reptilian part of their brain, which I think we talked about with Orion. So, okay. So an example of stalled evolution, 4D, service to self. Now I have channeled with some of my Starseed Business Academy clients that are specifically here to work with reptilians of light. They're specifically here to help those people, so many of us awakened ones that get stuck in 4D. I have channeled that humanity, humans, will be the saviors of the reptilian species. That's a big freaking deal. That eons of being stalled in their evolution and the way that they're going to start evolving again is from humans. We are actually here to kind of like be their savior in a way, but first we have to step into our own power, which is what we're doing. So that's the reptilians. Now reptilians, obviously most of them come from Draco, but there are many reptilians inside of inner earth, and those are the not so good ones. Okay. And then what's the next super controversial one we didn't talk about? The grays. Okay, so the grays. So the grays are this very interesting frequency that I think that they intentionally have manufactured to be like 0 point, like neutral. And there's a reason why. So they're like at this very neutral frequency. Not neutral like when we were talking Mantis, true neutrality of inner peace and zen and that wholesome like yin yang where everything's so balanced it becomes neutral. Not that exactly. More like they've kind of like removed themselves emotionally and bred out of themselves, evolved out of themselves intentionally, like emotional scales. So they're so neutral, but it's kind of cold. It's like a cold neutral. The smaller grays, because we've got tall grays and tall whites, and then we've got the little tiny grays. The shorter grays are probably like, I don't know, maybe like 3 to 4 feet, somewhere in there. And they are, so what happened was they chose to what's the word, like get into their evolution, not evolve naturally, but try to intentionally evolve their genetics towards being more intelligent. And they really value just like intelligence and logic. And so they bred out of themselves emotions. And that they thought that that was going to be really awesome and a really great idea, right? But what that actually ended up happening as a side symptom, a side effect, is they ended up breeding out their genders, right? And this wasn't a good thing because now they can't breed and have new babies. So now they're forced to just clone themselves over and over and over. But there is something missing in a clone. It's not the same. There's not that same like soulful energy of a soul that has, come from heaven or the in between, come down with a soul contract to come in. It's not like that. It's more like robotic clones that are just machines, like AI would feel. Like I personally don't believe that clones house their own souls. So that's take it or leave it. I know some people might not agree, but I don't feel that way. I feel like you have to have an organic birth in order to have a real soul in there. So anyway, why are we talking about all this? Well, there's a lot of issues with grays. Obviously, they've brought themselves to pretty much the brink of extinction before they start thinking, oh shit, we better try to fix this. And now they're trying to evolve backwards without losing the intelligence, but bringing back in the gender, which means they have to bring back in the emotions and the hormones. Emotions are very tied to like hormonal stuff. Think like testosterone and estrogen and all of that. They tried to take it out, which is why they lost their gender. Well, they're trying to evolve backwards, if that makes sense. Devolve to do that. And in order to do that, that's called the hybridization program, where they are using humans. A lot of the time it's women. I mean, that's not true. Like they would be able to do this with men too, like taking like sperms and eggs and then creating hybrid babies that have the gray DNA and trying to create a species of grays that can start to breed again. So again, they're trying to create in petri dishes, basically. And what else do I want to say about grays? Many people believe, I can see that this is true too. So I just was checking in, like, do I believe? Yeah. So many people believe, including myself, that grays are actually humans on a different timeline where they made a lot of different choices than we did. They feel very Atlantis-like energy. Now they're older than the Atlanteans because they were there during the times of Atlantis, showing Atlantean beings a lot of different tech that they could use to create stargates and stuff. So grays are very, very old, but they originally started out as humans, and look what you can become, right? Another thing that's very interesting about grays and this true neutrality is that it means that they can exist in many different dimensional frequencies because they don't really vibrate at any of them. Why is that important to know? Because they are the ones that can come and pick you up physically for an abduction. Which is why so many people when they experience an abduction, they tend to see grays, the shape of the face or the body. They would, in a lineup of who abducted you, they would point at the gray every time, because the grays can do the physical grab, whereas an Andromedan being in such this beautiful high nth dimensional frequency can try all they want to come down here, but they're not on the wavelength of 3D. So when they get here, and I'm sure they do come and visit, they're non-physical. Because you cannot perceive of what you are not. So a ninth dimensional being on Earth is actually in a whole different wavelength. The way ghosts are here technically, but most people can't see them and they can't touch them. But even more extreme, because ghosts are a 4D frequency as well. There's a lot that goes on in 4D. So like an Andromedan, if your beautiful Andromedan guide wants to pick you up to do like an upgrade, and they need the physical form, not just the astral form, they would actually hire a gray to come get you. So every time you're being abducted by grays, a lot of the time it's not them. They're just the go-between. So think about that, and it's a lot less scary. I mean, sometimes it is them, but a lot of the times they're actually getting paid by interdimensional, higher dimensional beings to be the physical, like, grab, the physical, like, they can actually go and get you. Okay, so that's grays. The Essassani are a lot taller grays. They are already hybridized. So grays started hybridization programs a long time ago, and it takes time, generations, to get them back to where they want to be. But the Essassani are further, they've devolved away from that gray, cold, non-emotion into quite a nice energy, quite a loving energy, the Essassani. It's quite nice. I've worked with a couple of them for clients, and it's a nice energy. So that is an advanced gray then, right? So that would be like an advanced gray that's in a much higher frequency, feeling honestly like very 5D to me, 5D frequency. Okay. Is that everything? Yeah, so that's grays, that's reptilians, that's Orion, all the way up to blue rays. We talked about the angels a little bit. Let me know what you thought about this video. And if there was one that you would love to go more deeply into, remember to check out the Meet the Cosmos playlist for like more in-depth videos about some of these, including some ancient civilizations like Lemuria, Atlantis, all of that. And I think that's it. So thank you so much. If you would like to work with me and really understand which, I have a list here of all the things we just talked about, which one of these is your Star Nations alliance, or maybe something we didn't talk about. Who is your Star Nations alliance? I cannot tell you how important the answer to that question is. It might be the most important thing that you ever find out as a starseed, because your Star Nations alliance is the higher dimensional group or being or council that you are here to be an ambassador of. You're here as an ambassador of them, born into as a human so that you can work in this realm. You're an ambassador of them. You're here to anchor in that frequency, those codes. You're here to bring through either their message or their healing or their information or their wisdom or something. That Star Nations alliance is directly related to what your soul gifts are in this life, what your purpose, your mission is, and who you are here to serve and in what way. So that's kind of like the answer to everything, right? If you want to go into who your Star Nations alliance is. Then come into my Starseed Mentorship, Sovereign Creator Codex. You'll find a link below in this description of the video. It is so freaking powerful. I'll just let you go and investigate that. Go click on the link. Probably be the most transformational thing that you've done thus far on your path with me. I can say that confidently, right? Because I've done so many of these mentorships, and I've cried, I've laughed. I've never been so blown away and in awe of star seeds and our crazy magical gifts and path and reasons for being here. I've never been so in awe and so fallen back so in love with my work as this mentorship was created for me. Like, it was created for me, I feel like, too. Like, that's so special. It's like, this is my gift to the world. It's the most powerful thing that I offer. And I hope I'll see you in there. Oh, that's all I'll say. Thank you so much. And before you go, please remember to share this video, but also remember, listen to your heart and the quiet voice within, because you are so much more than the body you are in. I love you, beautiful starseed. Thank you so much. Have a great Sunday. Bye.